James Carville knew how to win, and he blamed the Democratic losses this November 2nd on stupid wokeness, to which AOC fired back that wokeness is a term almost exclusively used by older people these days. So that should tell you all you need to know. What? This is a term folks like you brought out very recently and had been proudly displaying at every march since. Just last year, The Guardian declared woke the word of our era. I guess they didn't get the memo from the Mean Girls Club. We don't use that emoji anymore. Woke, please. We say fetch now.
Bill Maher is now calling out AOC for brushing off the woke debate while dragging Democrats further off course. After taking real hits at the ballot box, you'd expect the party to slow down and move back toward the center. Instead, the opposite is happening. Some of their biggest voices, AOC front and center, seem determined to double down on woke politics no matter the cost. Maher's point is simple and brutal. Voters already sent the warning, but certain Democrats are choosing ideology over reality, even as the losses keep piling up.
That said, I would love to have AOC on this show. There's so much to admire there. I was one of her first supporters for the Green New Deal idea. But that will probably never happen because Democrats don't go anywhere these days where they're not pre-adored. And that's my last bit of advice to them. Go where the amen corner isn't. Do Fox News. Be brave. Come here. Go everywhere. Winning is about expanding the election.
And Maher isn't holding back at all. In this video, he goes straight after AOC's latest woke claims, breaking them down piece by piece. Buckle up. This escalates fast.
To remind voters how lame and clueless and hopelessly uncool they are, especially since those are the ones who actually vote. But okay, fine. What word would you like us to use for the plainly insane excesses of the left that are not liberalism, but something completely different? Because you can't have that word liberal from us and think it should cover things like canceling Lincoln and teaching third graders their oppressors. That's all your new thing.
Now here's where it gets interesting. AOC isn't afraid of being woke. She's afraid of the label. She embraces the ideas, just not the name. Even while trying to distance herself, she still comes off unmistakably woke. That's what Maher is calling out. He's not nitpicking words. He's challenging an entire group that insists they're just progressive while drifting far from classic liberal values. Maher's point is simple. Liberalism once meant open debate and common sense. Now, under figures like AOC, it's becoming a hypermoral, ultra-sensitive movement that barely resembles what it used to be.
One question to ask about the word woke might be, why in such a short time has it gone from a rallying cry to a pejorative? If the word only made you think of rational, deserved causes like teaching a less whitewashed version of American history, AOC would still want to own it. But it's a joke because it makes you think of people who wake up offended and take orders from Twitter, and their oversensitivity has grown tiresome.
Exactly. Figures like AOC and Bernie Sanders don't represent classic liberal values, the kind rooted in free speech, open debate, and practical solutions. Ironically, they've also twisted the original meaning of woke, which once meant awareness of real, concrete social problems. Today, it's been stretched into an extreme cultural performance that most everyday people can't relate to. What began as awareness has turned into language policing, ideological purity tests, and constant outrage aimed at pleasing a small, perpetually offended group. Instead of focusing on policies that actually help working-class Americans, the movement fixates on symbolism over substance. Maher's point is clear. Modern woke politics has drifted far from real liberalism, and even further from the concerns of ordinary people.
Me all the time. Why haven't you ever had Hillary or Bill Clinton on? Why didn't you have Kamala on during the last campaign? You think we don't ask? We ask these people every week. They say no. It took 8 years and a petition to get Obama on. And these are people, all people I voted for. Think about that. They're afraid to come on the show of a guy who voted for them. The Republicans, they show up.
If you've followed this channel, you know this isn't Maher's first time challenging Democrats to come on his show. He's rolled out the red carpet, sent personal invites, and even called them out publicly. Yet they keep refusing. And the reason is obvious. They know Maher won't let them sit there reading rehearsed talking points without pushback. Yes, he's a Democrat, but he's the kind who believes in tough questions, real debate, and calling out nonsense when it shows up. That alone makes him dangerous to today's hypersensitive, tightly scripted political crowd. Sitting across from Maher means facing contradictions, having inconsistencies exposed, and watching carefully protected narratives fall apart live on TV. So instead of engaging, they avoid him, because facing Maher means facing reality.
All the goodies Joe Manchin will allow. And it doesn't seem to buy their love. Why? Why is the party that supports so many issues that benefit the middle class still considered out of touch by 62% of Americans? In plain English, nobody likes a snob. Hillary Clinton didn't have anyone on rural research or outreach when she ran in 2016 until the race tightened just before the election. Then they hired one. And where was his office? Brooklyn. True story. Politics is local, not locally sourced. It's not artisan. It's art and stand.
These days, the DNC seems far more invested in political theater than in solving the problems that actually keep everyday Americans up at night. Instead of listening to average voters, they cater to the loudest voices on the far left, voices that don't even reflect most of their own base. Maher keeps hammering home a simple truth. Politics isn't a performance. It's local. It's about showing up for the people who elected you, understanding their struggles, and dealing with the real, everyday issues shaping their lives. But that message keeps getting lost on leaders like AOC, who appear far more interested in ideological battles than practical governance. Maher's point couldn't be clearer. If Democrats want to earn back trust, they need less grandstanding and more problem-solving. Right now, they're completely missing the mark.
Our microaggression culture doesn't play in the Rust Belt. If a staffer hands you a speech that says menstruating people instead of women, don't say that. Say women. Don't put anyone fresh out of college in charge of the campaign. They've been given participation trophies their whole life. They don't know how to win.
Maher says woke overreach helped sink the DNC. From replacing basic language with terms like birthing people to lowering standards in schools and workplaces, merit was pushed aside for ideology. Voters noticed. These weren't small mistakes. They showed how far the party drifted from everyday America.
A lot of folks in America you come across as the cares about everybody but me party. And it doesn't have to be that way. You can find ways to stand up for these folks without being David Duke. This month, when the Democrats finally passed their big $1 trillion bill to rebuild our roads and bridges, 6 Democrats voted no because it didn't go far enough to address climate change, which I'm sure is true. What does? But this was free money from the federal government that would actually improve their constituents' lives. I can see a voter saying, you know, squad, I agree with you on climate change. But as long as it is happening, we also need money for getting the water pumped out of the subway.
Maher criticizes Democrats for prioritizing global causes over American families. They reject funding for urgent domestic issues, like infrastructure and housing, just to insist on ideological purity, such as adding climate provisions. Voters see it. Ideology over action leaves citizens struggling.
A difficult issue for the Democrats to lose on, but they're trying. For decades, liberals have said if only men could get pregnant, this wouldn't even be an issue. And abortion rights are women's rights. Well, that's wrong now. Or as the kids say, hold up. When the wokey end of the progressive spectrum talks about abortion now, they shy away from that word, women, and prefer terms like birthing people or people who menstruate, because somewhere there's a trans man who's pregnant, and I say good for him, and I'll be looking for his story somewhere in a future issue of Ripley's Believe It or Not.
The far left pushed the idea that men can get pregnant, even releasing a pregnant man emoji. Public reaction was confusion and disbelief. Instead of debate, dissenters were labeled bigoted, showing the movement had shifted from inclusion to rigid ideological enforcement, leaving ordinary people unable to keep up.
Last week, an 85% Latino congressional district on the border with Mexico, which had always voted heavily Democratic, flipped to the red team And the campaign manager for the losing Democrat said, "We gave up a reliably Democratic congressional seat for no reason at all. We deserve to know why." Well, aside from your terrible attitude, I'm going to tell you why. Because these voters stopped seeing your candidate as their lawyer. That's why. Their message to you was, "I'm an American now. I'm here. Be my lawyer, not the lawyer for the migrants showing up in my backyard."
Maher's critique goes beyond OC or woke language. It targets a Democratic Party so focused on performance politics that it ignores everyday Americans. From extreme ideological enforcement to prioritizing symbolism over practical solutions, the party lost touch with reality. Maher's point: voters reject politics that favors fringe activism over common-sense problem-solving. Democrats must focus on real issues, not language policing, if they want to regain trust.